Hello and well met. This is Layron with Fantasy Grounds Academy. Today I'm going to just take a look at the author extension and I'm going to share a module that I'm creating for the community. What this module is basically a catalog that has all of the different art packs that you can purchase from the store, and I'm managing to keep it updated so that whenever something new is added, I'm going to add it to this particular campaign that I have set up. Once I'm done, I will re-render the module and I will put a revision number on it so I know which version it is in case I have more than one copy. So I'm working in a campaign right now, and the only extensions I have loaded is the author extension, and then I have a font extension that helps with the font size a little bit. But other than that, that's all I have. And then in the library, I don't have anything. There's no modules, so all I'm doing is working with text, images, and links. And then I'm using the author extension to help organize that. So all of these chapters and headings here are for the actual module itself. This is not module format, but this is the skeleton or the structure of it. Once I render it, then it becomes a module. So what I have in the assets folder is I have a graphic that I need to update. And what this is a preview graphic of the types of assets that you might find on the Fantasy Grounds art pack asset location. And I put a link for that in the chat or in the description of the video. So when the video's over, there'll be a link to the author extension and a link to the art packs. So essentially what I've done is I've made a glorified catalog. And all I've done is put links to certain assets. I've put different things in to help people when they have the art asset packs to understand exactly what they have. So, for instance, I have this little thumbnail here, and on each one of these, I have a link. If you click on one of the links, it brings up a preview image of the content in the map pack. The images are not that great. However, it's better than having to go all the way to the website to see what you're getting. So what I've done here is in Canva, which is a social media platform like art creators, I'm going to take screenshots of the art packs, put them in here, and then I'm going to make a preview window like I've done with the rest of these. And as time goes on, there'll be more and more, but for the time being, I've got most of them done. So I'm going to add a couple more to this so that it can be utilized for the community. I might consider distributing this and putting it up on the forge for like $1 or something, but I think this is something that's really needed for navigating through Fantasy Grounds and understanding exactly what you have. Because otherwise, you're going to the website and you have to kind of preview here when you're already inside of Fantasy Grounds. And that's one of the things that I think is a little bit aggravating sometimes. Because when you're in the assets window and you're searching for content, you want to actually find the content and not have to dig through all the different folders just to figure out what you have. The way to search for an asset is to go Fantasy Grounds or FG with a space after it and hit enter. And what that'll do is it'll sort all this stuff out, and you pretty much take you just to the Fantasy Grounds art asset packs. Now, this video assumes that you have a subscription or that you own a few of these. If not, then this probably won't be very useful to you, but maybe it will in the future. And then if you hit the next page, you'll get to the other map sets. Now, in order to know what's in them, or if you've never looked at them before, you have to single click on one of the bags and it'll open up and there'll be an asset in there. And that's the only real way to preview kind of what you're getting. So what I've done is I've taken the screenshots from the website and put them inside of Fantasy Grounds so it's a little easier to see what you have. And I made that little utility thing where you can actually click on a link and it pops up the graphic that goes along with it, one of these pages. And then another thing I've done is a cross-reference table, which allows you to take a look at what the packs have in them as far as category types. So none of these packs are the same. They all have a little bit of difference to them. So what I've done is I will take this map pack and I will add to it, and then there's some notes here on how to use it and why I created the module. So some of these things I put in here is why charge for this art asset reference tool. Well, I put the creation of this tool, or this art asset navigation module, takes probably about an hour or so to put together each time I updated it, and then it's 6 hours already put into it. The module will be updated in future updates alongside any new art set releases from SmiteWorks. It does not include the extensions that are themes, because those are not something you normally build with. So why $1? Well, the minimum coin purchase on the Fantasy Grounds store at this time is $5. So I think $1 is fair. Why do you create the module? Well, I made it so that we have a better understanding of the categories and types of art assets, and that helps make the content selection a little easier without having to go to 3 or 4 different websites. Also, creating more awareness and familiarity with the art packs themselves, it helps increase the value of what you're paying for. So if you're paying $50 a year, or you're buying them, here and there, that I think something like this would make it a little more useful. And then accessibility to the art packs, and to have a better visibility from a user standpoint within the Fantasy Grounds user interface. And that's kind of what the premise of this. So this other thing, this is just the license agreement for using SmiteWorks and Wizards of the Coast content stuff, if you're going to. And then here is the cross-reference tool. It is kind of unwieldy. I'm going to have to rethink on how I want to use this, but there's a direct link to the Unity store, and I just found a boo-boo here, an error, so I'm going to update that. So it's at Ubuntu instead of Unity. So Fantasy Grounds Unity Art Asset subscription link. So if you want to know what this is about, you can click on this and it will take you straight to the website. So there's some links in these that are embedded for the actual products. I also have a link I'm providing in the content on the website when we're done with the video that takes you to the area on the Fantasy Grounds forums. And this has the information on how to use this tool. So that's something that I'm not going to show you how to use the content on the author extension, but I'm going to show you what can be done with it in regards to this project. So I just don't want you to think that this is a tutorial on how to use the author extension, because there's so many different ways to use it, and it really depends on what you're building too. So there's really no point in trying to capture all that in one video. So the next thing is the artwork. So that's probably the most time-consuming thing, and of anything that you might create in Fantasy Grounds. So one of the things you want to do is be organized and have an idea of what you're going to work on. So if I go over to Fantasy Grounds, I'm going to get my pointer up here so it's a little easier for you to follow along with what I'm doing. And it will make this journey a little bit less annoying. So right here on the left-hand side, I have all the names of most of the names of the packs that are included in Fantasy Grounds. So if you scroll down, that has all the different types or packs that are up to date. I'm going to add a couple today, so I'll show you that process. It tells you what categories, so it will say genre, and then there's background, base letters, brushes, decorations, decals, effects, floors, maps, numbers, symbols, tiles, walls, and doors. So it'd be nice to know which pack has doors in it, or which pack has brushes in it, or whatever has decorations in it, which is, a bunch of the fancy stuff, or which ones have like shadow effects. So this is kind of why I created this, so I can look at this and go, okay, this is the one I want to look for. And it's called Fantasy Grounds Underground 2. So if I know that, when I come into my art pack area, I'll have an idea of what's in it. I'm not going to list every little single pack of the little items inside each pack, but it's nice to know what categories are in each map pack. That is a good start. If you want to add all that yourself, you're welcome to do that. I can send you the module and you can just crack it open and do it yourself. The other thing I've done is I put a direct link to all of the content that is on the store. So if you want to go to this GM symbol one, you just click on the link and it takes you straight to the website page. So it's kind of like an inline web page type thing where you kind of have half Fantasy Grounds and then half website. So it's a little easier to access that stuff without having to reinvent the wheel. So I'm going to work on this link first. So I'm going to unlock this page, which protects it from being edited. This is a subchapter, so it's within the subchapter in the beginning of the module. So we have the help index module. We have all the legal stuff. This is the navigation table. And then there's an outline for preview. So if you come through here, there's a big list of previews that I have to update that to. So that'll just be image previews that come up that are just linked to a story page so that you have an idea of what it looks like. And when you load the module, these will be embedded in the reference manual. So it won't just be a link, there'll actually be a photo too. So that's kind of handy. So there's that. So that's another thing I have to update. And then the catalog descriptions, which would be this. These are all the story entries. And if you open up one of these, it has the name of the item. It has the description that's on the website and the direct link to the pack. And the image itself will be linked inside of here. And when I render this as a actual reference manual, the image or the preview image will be embedded in this. So I won't have to click on this. This will actually be visible in the reference manual. So there's little things I'm doing here to kind of make this a little bit easier for people to access the content, because there's really no good way to do it currently with the asset window. There's no way to have previews without clicking into all these different bags to figure out what you have. So I kind of use this as a tool to help narrow down what's in which pack. So for instance, the coastal pack, it contains these items, and that's what's on the description on the website. But that's not inside of Fantasy Grounds. You have to go to the website to see what's in here. So that's kind of why I've done this, is kind of made my own inline reference manual. So when you're looking for content, you're not searching all over and you're not trying to guess what's in each one of the packs. So that's one reason why I'm doing this. If you don't have the art asset packs or you don't use them, it's probably not very useful to you. But if you're a developer or someone that relies on those assets, or somebody that wants to get familiar with Fantasy Grounds, this might be helpful for you. Right now, I only have it created in the D&D 5e rule set, but I'm going to make it more universal, hopefully. I'm going to get some help and try to get this so I can load it in the core rules and all the other rule sets. Because it doesn't really pull on any assets that have to do with mechanics. So it should work in all the different rule sets and make it more universal instead of just for 5e. So I want to make this, that would be my next step, is to create it in a more suitable format for all the different rule sets. That way, if someone needs this utility, they can load it no matter what rule set they're in. So right now, I just have it created in 5e because that's the system I'm most familiar with. But this particular utility is system agnostic. It's just a utility. It doesn't need any rules or dice rolls or anything like that. So I'm going to get this ported over into an actual module that's more universal for all rule sets and not just D&D. So that's something I'm going to work on. So the first thing I'm going to do is update my art. So that's probably the most work. So what I have here is I have my Canva thing, and these are the thumbnails that I'm going to place for the actual data. So I'm going to go to the web page, and there are the art pack bundles. So the last two that were added was the Abandoned Places map pack, which is pretty much a modern type thing. And then there's also the Cemetery pack, which can be used either or, but it's pretty much fantasy. So what I'm going to do is I just have an image capture. So I'm going to take the Screenshot, which is a screenshot program. It's free, or you can pay for it. Depends on what you want to do. And I'm just going to capture the region of this map and use this in the reference manual when I get done rendering it. So I'm going to copy this to the clipboard, and then I'm going to come over to my Canva project, and I'm going to add another slide at the end, because I want to append to it. I don't want to set it in the middle. So I'm going to add a couple new pages, and this page here is going to be for the at or the art pack. So this is the abandoned places one. So that's going to be the page title for this graphic. So I'm going to put abandoned for the title here for this page. So abandoned. Come on. What are you doing? Come on, Smalls, you're killing me. Okay. So abandoned places. Okay, so that is basically what the title of this is going to be. And then I'm going to take the same image, recenter it, try to get it as big as I can without going past the borders, because this is going to be a preview image in Fantasy Grounds, so you kind of want it kind of big. And then I'm going to take this image and copy it, and then I'm going to move it up to the preview graphic, which is the very first one. And I'm going to paste it over here and shrink it so that it fits and it's uniform with all the rest of these. So this is probably the most work. And I think when I first did this, it took me a couple hours to do all this. So there's quite a bit of copying and pasting and organizing. So that's going to replace the current graphic that I have now with an updated one. So it's going to have three pictures basically are going to be available, new ones for the new art packs. So now the next one is the cemetery one. So I want to go to the cemetery pack. So let's go to the actual art subscription page. Here's the cemetery pack right here. So I think I should have made this one page 32 because this is the actual last one, but I'll fix that now. So let me first copy and paste that. So I'm going to use green shot to capture the region that I want to take a screenshot of. And then I'm going to hit copy to clipboard and then go back over and change this out. So I'm going to delete this here because I want to insert this one in between. So, oops, I didn't mean to do that, but that's okay. So I just made a duplicate. So I'm going to delete this, put that in there. This is the cemetery pack, and I'll rename the page so I don't get confused. Because you can render this as one big file, or you can tell it to basically to just render what page you want. So I'm only going to render a couple pages, and then that's about it. So I'm taking off some of this, trimming some of this fat off the edge here. I don't need all that white border, just some of it. That cuts down on the size, and you can also expand the photo a little bit more. And that's probably the most work you're going to do with any module is working with the art, because that's generally where people have most unorganized processes. It's something that you got to get used to doing, and it's important that you start off on the right foot. So get all your artwork taken care of before you do anything else. And if you're not sure what artwork you need, start making a list and gathering it, editing it, resizing it, making it look better, whatever you're going to do. That's something you want to take care of in the beginning. So Cemetery Map Pack is the name of this page and the graphic. Now I'm going to copy and paste this onto the preview image, which is going to be this. So I'm going to hit Control V, which is pasting it, and then I've already kind of got it sized, so I'm going to go ahead and put that in here. And that is our preview image for that. And then this one here, I wanted to kind of fix that a little bit, because it doesn't need to be that, this border here doesn't need to be that big. So I'm going to kind of trim that down a little bit so it's not too cumbersome. I don't need extra stuff there. Now I'm going to reposition it and do the same thing with this. So these are the preview images for those map packs, for the graphic picker thing, and then I'm going to have the actual packs, the pages down here. 33 and 34 are going to be the next images. So I'm going to go ahead and print those off, and the only ones I want to do are those three. So the updated graphic and then the last two. So if I go to download, I can choose which pages I want. So I can deselect all of them, and I'm only going to take the thumbnail page and page 34 and 33, which is the abandoned places in the cemetery. I'm going to compress them. Now just leave this, but it's good if you use a compressed format, because one of the things I noticed is my module is too big. So I have to go back and recompress all the images because they're just a little big. So that module is like 10 megabytes. It's a little big for just a utility module. So I'm going to go ahead and hit done. And then once I'm done with that, I'll hit download. And it'll start downloading all the graphics, the 3 pages that I want. And that should... Okay, so it did it as a zip file, which is fine. Now that I'm done with that, I'm going to close Canva for right now. And it's already been updated, so I don't have to worry about that. And then I'm going to go to the Fantasy Grounds store, and I'm going to start grabbing some of the descriptions. But I want to deal with the artwork first. I want to follow that all the way through, so I'm not dinking around with 50,000 things and getting confused. So let me close this. I'm going to close the story. And the first thing I'm going to do is add these assets to the actual module. And I got to replace this one. So I got to make sure it has the same file name. Otherwise, it'll mess up the links and such. So it's going to be called something, and it's in my campaign folder. So I want to make sure that I name the new one the exact same thing. So if I open up the campaign folder for the images, and then I go to the folder icon on the right, this is where I'm going to be putting all of those preview images. And then for the campaign itself, this is the thumbnail. So it's called FGU Art Pack Thumbnails. And I need to make sure that that is the name of the graphic that I just took upon myself. So I'm going to open up the folder, and this is where the item is stored. And then if I go to my downloads folder, I should have a zip file that has this kind of stuff in it. So if I go to, let's see, these are all zip files. So I want to make sure that I have the latest. So this is it right here. This is the thumbnail thing here. So I'm going to go ahead and extract it to a folder. And let's see, so that's all just files. So I'm going to go up to the folders, and here it is. So this is called Fantasy Grounds Art Pack, and then here's the cemetery one. So I'm going to copy and paste those over, actually cut. And then in the actual folder on the back end of Fantasy Grounds, I'm going to paste these in. And I want it to replace this graphic. So hopefully, yeah. So it'll say... moving 3 items, destination, I'm going to say replace, because that's what I want to do. And now for these 2 packs here, I'm going to drag those into the art pack preview folders, because that's where I want them to be. Now, when I'm done with that, it will be added to the campaign, but I still have to add it to the images section. So what I'm going to do here is... see what this brings up before I do anything else. So this link here in the images area, I want to make sure it brings up that new graphic. So I'm going to click on it, and yes. No, wait, it did not. Yeah, because see, they're not on here, the new graphic. So I want to double check that. That's why I did it this way, because I don't want it to break or... Yeah, see, this isn't even the right graphic. So that's what I'm saying. You got to check this out, because... this is the name of the... Yeah, so this is right, this preview image, but it's still holding on to the old graphic information. So I'm going to delete this link. Actually, no, I'm going to... Let's see, what do I want to do? So I got to hit the refresh. That's what I forgot to do. And then I want to open this up. And then I want to create the image record. And then it's in the wrong category. It's in uncategorized. So I want to put it in the thumbnails area in the map pack asset group. So I just drag and drop that in there. So now I have basically 2 of those, which I don't want. So let me double check that, because you can really get screwed up if you don't do this right. It will really make things hard on you. So let me double check and make sure, because that's probably one of the the Achilles tendon for a lot of people. So this says FGU art pack, so I want to put 1.0 like that one, and let me see what else it says here. Yeah, so here's all the links and such. Okay, so it is in there now. Now that it's updated, that's good. So I don't have to worry about that too much. So I will do that, and then I will close this or delete it because I don't want 2 of those. Now I want to close it and reopen it and make sure I have the correct graphic. Yeah, here's the updated one. So what I forgot to do was refresh because it was still holding on to the old image. I wanted to keep the same file name because I already have all these links and I didn't want to have to redo all those. So that's why I did that. So there's that. So that takes care of that part of the project. So that's one piece of the puzzle. The next is the preview images themselves. So I want to add these to my images folder here. So one of them was called Abandoned Places. So this is a preview image. I'm going to create an image record, and if I have the group selected, it will put it in the correct area. So it should be up near the top because it starts with an A. So I'm going to go ahead and create the image record. And here's the Abandoned Places. So Abandoned Places map pack. And then over here, I'm just going to put Abandoned Places. And that should take care of that. And I want to see if I did that with the other ones. No, I did not. So I'm not going to do that. I'll leave that the way it was. Because I want to be consistent. So I don't want it to be, some things are like that, some aren't. So that's the preview image for the actual art pack, the new one that came out. Okay, so there's the Abandoned Places one, so that's added. And the other one was Cemetery. So open this up. Again, I'm going to set this as the Create Image Record. It's going to set it over here, because now it's part of this pack here. So there's a Cemetery Map Pack, Cemetery Map Pack. Is it the right image? So that's another thing you want to make sure before you move on is, yeah, that looks right. So that's basically adding the art or any type of like tokens or handouts or anything. That's some of the process. Now you can import them all at once if you click on Create from Campaign Assets. But if you're just incrementally updating, you don't want to do that. This would be good for an initial, and that's what I did perform when I first did this. Is I had it pull in all the images at once instead of trying to do it one at a time, which would take forever. But now that I'm updating and I only have a couple to add, that's not such a big deal. And then there's a graphic here for helping people with searching. So you use FG plus space to search, and that's how you come up with your map pack. So if you know the name of the map pack, you can actually type that in there, and it will take you straight to it instead of guessing which one is which. So that's kind of why I'm doing this, is kind of help with that. So the images are in, so that's the main thing. Now I need to build the rest of the content so it matches what I've done with everything else. So I'm going to go back to the story entry. And I'm going to go to the, let's see, this is the navigation table. This is the first thing I'm going to update. So all this is going to be as text pretty much, so at least for this part. So I have it unlocked. I'm going to come to this area here, which is where the inline table is, and hit enter. Oops, wrong one. I want to hit enter at this back one, and then hit Control Tab. And that will create the other tabs. So I'm hitting Control Tab, and it's just adding another row. There we go. So that is that. And we're going to call this one this is the cemetery. So cemetery map pack. It is fantasy for the most part. I mean, you can use it in other genres, but most of it looks pretty fantasy to me. And I want to look at the map pack itself before I move on. So I'm going to go to the assets area. I want to make sure I refresh it because I don't want to jinx myself here. And I'm going to go to FG Cemetery. Actually, I'm going to do the whole thing. I want to look at all the map packs. So I have a space. You have to have more than 3 letters or characters, so that's why you have to put the space after. You can also use a comma. So the map pack is going to be under FG and then C. So here's the cemetery. So it looks like there are a few different folders. So what do we have here? We have, let's see, cemetery, cemetery, cemetery. Okay, so we have tiles. Okay, brushes, decorations, effects, tiles. So that's what I'm going to do. So we have, let's see, so brushes and decorations. So you come up here to the top of this, it's going to tell you, it's like, okay, brushes, decorations, yes and yes. So that is going to be populated. So yes and a yes. So I'm doing this for both map packs, so that, I'm going to do the next one after I'm done with this. And then we have effects. So let me make sure I got the right column. Yep, so this column here is going to be for the effects. So I'm going to say yes to that. And then there was one more. So that, decorations, effects, tiles. So I think that's towards the end where the tiles is. Yep. So it's this column right here. So this way you'll know what's in that pack roughly. You'll have an idea of what types of assets are in which packs. So that's the first one. And now I'm going to append it again. So I'm going to hit enter. And that's going to start a new inline table. And I'm going to hit Control Tab. And that's going to take and add more of these cells so that I can populate them with the Abandoned Places map pack. Okay, so that's that. Call this Abandoned Places. Make sure I spell it right. Okay, do it right. Abandoned Places map pack. Yep. And then as you stretch this out, you'll see that it's quite huge. So I'm going to have to think of a different way to handle this. But this is really handy when if you have no idea what's in the map pack. So it kind of helps with that. And you can always come to the website and look at the descriptions in here. So if you click on the info button here, it tells you kind of what's in it. But it's not quite what one might want to know. So I got to build that out in the module. Take this information and grab this and put it in the module so that it's useful. So that's what I'm doing with this. So I'm going to go ahead and take this, and this is a modern type thing. It has more modern type assets, which is cool because there's not too many of those. And then I'm going to, let's see, I'm already in this, so let's look at Abandoned Places. Okay, so it's got a lot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it's got 7 categories. So it does have brushes, so that's a bonus. So let's see, what's the first one? So genre, okay, base letters. What else do we got? Backgrounds, base letters, and brushes. So it has brushes, so we know that. And what else do we have? So we have decorations, brushes. Okay, so there's decorations and then autos and parts. So that's more decorations. So it's got 2 different decoration packs basically in it. So I'll just say yes to the decoration part. Yep. So there's that. So he has them broken up by vehicles, and then the other one's probably more like buildings. And then you have litter and debris, which is more decorations. Then you have nature, which is more decorations, and effects. So that is a category. So pretty sure it's this one. I want to make sure I have the right column. Okay, yep. So that's a yes on that. So there's times 3. So I'm going to put that in the description when I say yes. And then I'm going to say times 3. Because most of the art packs don't have 3 separate subfolders or different types of decorations. And if they do, I missed it. So I'll have to go back and look. But that's basically 3 different folders with different types of decorations. And then you have the tiles. So let's grab that and let's put that a yes there. So really there's only 1, 2, 3, 4, but there's 7 total folders in that. So that's why it turned out that way. So yes, 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 all the way down. Okay, so they're very similar, the last 2 packs. All right, so that's that part of it. Now I have these actual individual Map Tools Art Pack direct links. So I'm going to directly link the art packs inside the module. So I'm going to go ahead and hit enter, and you'll notice it makes this link here. So if you hit Control-1, that turns it back to standard text. So I want to grab the description page from the actual Fantasy Grounds store. So this one is Abandoned Places. That's the last one. So I want to go back for a minute, and I want to go to the cemetery because the cemetery is the second to the last. So if I click on that image, this takes me to the actual page for the product. So I'm going to hit copy on this link up here, and then I'm going to go into Fantasy Grounds and going to paste that into the field here for the search field, which is your chat window. So you hit Control V, hit enter. It creates a link to the item, and then I can link it to the module. So it would be a direct link to the store item. So that is going right. Oops, did I unlock it? What did I do? Okay, I need to give myself a little bit more room. So click down here and then grab the actual link, drop it in there, and that's the cemetery. And then I'm going to hit enter, hit Control-1, so I make sure I'm on the correct line. And then I'm going to go back to the other page, which is the Abandoned Places, and make a copy of that, because I'm kind of trying to keep them in order of the website, sort of. So that's why I'm doing that. Otherwise, I can just put whatever I want wherever, but I kind of want it somewhat in order. So again, I'm going to paste the link in the chat window in Fantasy Grounds, hit enter, and it develops a link, a URL that you can click on. It takes you to the website. So I'm going to go ahead and put that there. So that is basically just a direct link for the store's items. That's all I'm doing right here. And that's just a convenient way to say, okay, this one, maybe I want to buy this one. So you go over and click on it, and it takes you to the store. So that's all that's for. So this page has been updated. I don't have to do anything else to it as far as I know. So I'm going to go ahead and lock it. And that's a good feeling. So I'm going to click that, and I'm going to go ahead and close that. And now what I want to do is open up the asset inline previews, this is just a graphic preview page. So what I have here is the main thumbnail graphic, and then all of the individual packs are linked here. So what I want to do is copy kind of what I've done here. So I want to take this and I want to link it in here first. So I'm going to unlock and go to the images folder. And now I need to find the cemetery, which is here. And notice I have a space. There's a reason for that. When you use the author extension, if you don't put a space in there, the actual module will not render that as an inline image. So that's why there's a space. And I don't bold anything either, because that'll throw it off too. So I want to go ahead and grab the cemetery pack and drag and drop it right there. And that's where I want it. And then I'm going to hit enter again, control 1, hit enter once more to make sure I have that space. And then I'm going to link the abandoned places map pack. So that's that part of it. So I don't really need to do too much more. However, there is some links in these. I want to see what I did last time. I forget. So if I go to the winter map pack, why do I have a link here? Okay, that brings it to the data page, which is what I need to build next. So each one of these has their own story entry. So I'm going to go ahead and lock this. This is the preview for right now. And I'll move that over so I don't lose it. And then I'll go ahead and close this. That was my sample. So I'll go to the story entries. And from here, I'm going to add the 2 packs. So I need a separate page for each one of those packs. So this is the story structure that I have. I'm going to go ahead and click on add items. So I'm adding 2 different story entries. And I want them labeled similarly. So it's chapter 3 basically. So this will be 03.32 and then 03.33. So 32 and 33. I want to look at what I made those page-wise. Okay, so these are all sidebars is what I made these. So for the author extension, you can change the way the format looks. So I want these to both be sidebar, because that's the text formatting will look like when it renders to a module. And now for the 32 is going to be the cemetery pack. So I want to go to the cemetery description here. This is the abandoned places. I'll go ahead and do that since I'm here already. So I'm just going to copy and paste the data here. And then I'm going to hit copy. And then I'm going to go to the story entry and actually paste that in. So that way, when I have it set up, it'll look nice and uniform and be like everything else. So I'm going to go ahead and hit this and hit Control V. And this is the information. I will use this title up here for the actual title of the page. So this is the abandoned map pack page. I will go ahead and highlight this information and make that a header. This will have the basic information, and then I'll just kind of reformat this a little bit. So this will be italicized or bold. I have to kind of look at one of my other entries to see how I stylized it. So yeah, so this is, and then yeah, okay. So I need to put the image in here, which is important. So I need to grab the abandoned places image, which is in the images pile here. And I'm going to drag and drop that into this area, and I need to have a space in there, otherwise it doesn't show up correctly. So hit that, and I'm going to have a space there. So when it renders into a module, that will show up as an embedded image. If I don't have the spaces around here, it won't. It'll just be a link. And now I'm going to take and put the bold type lettering on here. And this, I notice, is not right. So let me fix that. So this is supposed to be a, whoops, Control Z, Control 4, and so is this. So that's supposed to be, there we go. So the map pack contains the following. So I'm going to put this up like that, and then I'll hit this, and this is created by Josh Watma. So went ahead and hit bold here, and then I put italicized on his name, so it kind of sticks out more. This is a already given type thing, so I'm going to delete this stuff. I don't need that. That's just your disclaimer for the art packs. I kind of put some of that in the beginning, so you don't need to repeat it every time. And then this art pack contains the following, so Control B for bold. And then what I'm going to do is just do Control 4, which is your bullet point. And to make this quicker, I just hit the backspace and hit enter. And that will create a new line that's going to have the information. There we go. So that is that. Now what we're going to do is to make this more complete, like I did with the others, is I'm going to link this story entry to the image. So here's the art pack for the abandoned places. And I'm going to take this link and link it back to this. So now that I have that there, it will pull this up, and then if I want to bring up the description, it's right there. And then this link here, if I close that on accident and I want to look at it again, it's right there. So these are linked back and forth for convenience and in case you get lost. So that's why I do that way. So now that I have this abandoned map pack, now I'm going to do the cemetery. So I want to go back to the web page. I'm going to repeat the process. So let's go all the way back. Essentially, I'm like rebuilding the website in Fantasy Grounds, but I think it's not that much work, and I really think it's useful for me. Some of you might think this is a waste of time. I understand, but I'm doing it for me, and I might put it up on the Fantasy Grounds Forge just for people that need this type of tool or need a utility to help them figure out what they have. So this is that. And until you use the map packs, you're really not going to know what you have. So this is kind of why I made this tool. Because if you're not familiar with what you have, you're not going to use it. And that's kind of a shame, because if you're paying for the subscription, and this also will cut down on your memory use if you use the internal stuff, it's a shame that we're not using it more. And realize that this isn't for everybody, but if you're going to pay for it and have it, it's good to know what you have. So that's all I'm doing is formatting this just like I did with the other one. This was adapted by Josh, so I'll go ahead and going to make that bold, and then I'm going to italicize his name just so I have some consistency. And then there's the disclaimers. I'm just going to take those out. Those should already be a given. If you buy a map pack, that is a given. And then go ahead and take the formatting here and hit Control 4, which is the list, and just kind of go back one space and then hit Enter, and it just will add the little doodad there. So that's kind of, basically, so I have it set where I want it to be. It looks pretty uniform. It tells you what's in the pack. Now I need to link it. So I'm going to close the symbol thing down. I don't need that. I've already done the abandoned places, so I don't want to get too confused. And then I'm going to take this and link the data entry to the cemetery map pack. So this is going to be linked into the story or into the map pack so that it's back and forth linking. And then I'll lock that, and we'll call that good. Now for the thumbnail view, I want to make sure that I have the thumbnails taken care of. So I'm going to open up the thumbnail view, and I'm just going to link the preview graphic to this section here. So if I go to images, and I'm going to go to the abandoned places one, and I want to make sure I pin it to the correct one. So this is a cemetery, this is abandoned places. So I'm going to link the actual map to this location. I was putting it on the bottom left corner. That's where these little pins are. Try to make it uniform. And then the next one was a cemetery. So this is so much easier to do when when it's organized and you've done most of the legwork. So, this is going to take me like a half an hour to an hour. So this is going to be linked to the cemetery pack, which is down here. So now this graphic is updated and the catalog's updated. Now I'm going to go through and see if I've missed anything. So this is basically, in a nutshell, this is just a catalog, a fancy glorified catalog that's linked, and it's just kind of more convenient for me. If you think it's a waste of time, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. It is kind of a waste of time, but it's the way I know how to do it to help adapt to the content that I have. So that's why I'm doing this. So you can do this with other products too if you think you need something like this. So this is the preview. So if I bring that up, there's the abandoned map pack and there's a cemetery. Perfect. If I click on those and I want to know more information, I can click on the cemetery map pack, which is good. that link works and the abandoned places. So that's right. So that's how you check, just kind of check your links. And now for the catalog page, the actual, that's the search thing. We go back to story entries. So in the story entries, if I go back to the catalog sheet and I click on these, see, I've already missed something already, looks like. Yeah, so this was the descriptions. So these are all the story entries. So I want to link those because this is the index. So I forgot to build this part of the index. So if I go to the story entries, I have the cemetery, map pack, and the abandoned places. So I want to switch the numbers because the abandoned places is actually older. Yeah, I don't want to mess with that. That's fine. So if I do that, it'll break the other link. So I don't want to mess too much with the title of it. So I'll just go ahead and link these down here. So this again is going to go down here for this. Whoops, hit Control Z, fix that. Okay, let me hit Enter, Control 1. Okay, now I'm on the correct line. I want to drag and drop this right there, and then again, hit Enter, hit Control 1. And then I want to do the cemetery. That works. There we go. So that's just a list of a bunch of, like a basic list of everything. And this, I don't know why it keeps doing that, but there we go. So that is basically it. So this page, you would just bring this up and you can click on any of these links. And then this is just a big link thing. So that's all this is an index. So that's what this is. And I'm going to put index right here and then make that a bold thing so we know what that is. And that's your map pack index. So that's cool. So I'll lock that. And now I'm going to hit advance the page. So this just goes through all the different map packs. And oh, I see there's some inconsistency. So there's that. And this needed to have a bold thing here. Oops, Control Z, Control 2. So I'm going to go through these and see what we got, see if they're consistent. So let's see, I'm going to go down through here, click this, there's that. So I'm going to go through and see what kind of, if there's any consistency. I want to go back. What was that all about? Okay, that's just a video link. Okay. So this is kind of way you check these is, you're going to go through them and see if they're consistent. I didn't proofread the first time through, so I'm catching little mistakes. Okay, so that's pretty good. So that's all the different chapters for the different story elements. And then I want to check that catalog. So here, yeah. So the catalog will have these links. And this is the index for the catalog. So I want the actual, that's the description index. And this is the preview index. And then this one is the actual table. So come down here, all the tables are there. And then you have the links that go directly to the website. So it looks good. So that is basically it. So at the very end, once you have everything linked and proofread and everything, then you're going to do a couple things. So if you go to if you have the author tool loaded, you can type in a help command. So you can go / author help, I think is the name of and that will give you the commands. Let's see, where's help? There is a command, so author help or something like that. So author, and then maybe help. So author help. Let's see if that does it. Yeah. So author help gives you the topics for the actual extension. So if you want to lock everything, and if you accidentally leave them unlocked, you do / author, and then space lock. And then you're going to just say all. lock all. There we go. So what it does is it goes through and it tells you there's 40 entries that were locked. So it locked all the records so that now all the images are locked. And now the export part. So once you're done with that, then you're going to type export, and it's /export. Now I already have the information set here, but if you're going to do this, make sure that this is correct. So one thing I want to tell you is that the file name shouldn't have hyphens and periods and dashes in it. So I'm just going to put FGU cat 01. So I'm going to put cat 02 because that's going to be my revision number. There's already a thumbnail assigned to it, which is just the FGA logo, which I might change that later. The name of it is Art Packs Accessibility Tool Catalog, kind of a long name, but that's what I called it. It is a catalog utility, so instead of that, I'm just going to put utility. I think that's a little much because that comes up in the library. And then the author is FGA Links. I think I can take the FGA off and just put Links on there. And then I'm going to select all the data types, even though I didn't use them all, just in case, because I don't want to miss any. And if I had any tokens, I would drag those in here, but I don't. So once I'm done with that, I'm going to hit export. And what it will do is you'll get a message on the left-hand side here in the chat window. Once it's rendered everything, it's still working right now. So once it's done that, it'll say module exported successfully. And it will tell you it created the reference manual. And the only way I'm able to do this is with the author extension, which I have linked. So that's basically how you would update a module or start creating one, is kind of have all those different pieces in order and then have all your links. And everything should be kind of there for you so you're not going back and forth, back and forth. So now that that's happened, I need to drop out of this working section because I don't want to load that in the same campaign that I'm working in. So I'm going to go to load campaign. And then I have test session, which is what I use for Fantasy Grounds. So I'm going to go ahead and open that up. So you always want to have a test session after you render a module. You don't want to preview it in the same folder that you're working in. It's going to confuse you. It's going to throw things off. If you've made a revision, it may tell Fantasy Grounds it's not revised, even though you've already revised it. And as you saw earlier when I started, I didn't update that image, so it was still holding on to the old information. So that kind of sucked. So you got to be really careful with that. You got to stay organized, make sure all your pictures and such are labeled and sized and put in folders, and then put in the Fantasy Grounds subfolder for your campaign, and then link to everything. So you got to build all your assets and then link everything at the end. Is basically the best practice for that. So this is I guess it's not really a tutorial, but it's just kind of a show and tell. So I'm making a module that helps organize images and to know what you have in your images catalog, but I'm also kind of using the author extension to create a reference manual, so when you pull it up, it's searchable and the images are embedded and it looks more like a book instead of a module. So that's kind of what I've done here. So if you're looking to learn how to use the author extension, there is a tutorial on it on the web page that I linked. So if you want to learn how to use it and what it is, it's on there. So I'm going to go ahead and go to library and see I already have this loaded, which is kind of sucks. So let me unload that because I want to make sure that I don't get confused, and I might have screwed myself because I have an older version in the library. So hopefully that's not the case. We'll find out. So I'm going to go to the load filter. I'm going to unload this, and then I'm going to search for it. I'll just look for Links because that's what I left it at. And I need to be in the unloaded category. So here's Links. Okay, so let's see what happens. So I load the module back up, click on it. It has the reference manual, and let's see if it grabbed all my changes. So here's the asset help thing. This is what I was telling you. You got this kind of reference view. So this is pretty nice. So this is what I mean with the embedded images. If you have them too close together, they won't do this. It'll just be a link. Lady Shell told me about this. So there's the help file. There's the FAQ and the notes about it. There's the legal stuff. There's the OGL licensing stuff. There's the table that has all of the different map packs listed in there, which is kind of cool. It looks like coastal. Yeah, see that this is not the module that I just did. So what happens is if you render the module and you don't get rid of it before you re-render, you're going to get a problem. It'll always take the last actual module that or the first one you did. It won't take the revisions. So I need to go into my actual campaign folder and wash that out, or not the campaign folder, but my modules folder, and get rid of that recent one I'll keep, but the older one I want to get rid of it. So I'm going to look for, I guess it's art, or what did I call that? Art assets. Well, you know what? I'm going to go by sort it by the date, and that should help with that. So while that's doing that, what I just did there was a dono. So if you're working on a campaign and you render or you export your module, make sure you get rid of the old one. Don't write over the top of it or make changes like I did and have two different copies of it. Because for some reason, Fantasy Grounds always wants to load the older one. So if you want it to load your newly revised revision, you need to remove it out of the Fantasy Grounds folder. And it has to do with the way it holds on to it in memory or something. I don't know, but just be warned that that can happen. So I want to go through and make sure that the modules are not identical, even if they have different file names. If the content inside is the same, it's going to throw things off. I don't know why it does that, but it does. And so I'm going to make sure that I don't have both of those loaded at the same time. And that's probably what the problem was, because when I rendered it, it looked fine, but when you load it, it's going to take the older one. It doesn't take the newer one. So that's something you have to know when you're rendering or when you're having different revisions of your module. You want to make sure that you're not doing that to yourself. So that's a big no-no that I just did right there. Okay, so let's see what happens. So let's see, what do we got? Come on, let's go. We got so many modules that it has to course through them all. Kind of sucks, but come on, do your thing. Show me what you got. Maybe if I minimize it, bring them back up. Okay, yep. So here's this. See, it says Cat 2. This is Cat 1. So I want to get rid of this and this. Map, AEOT, mod. These are different variations of it. So I only want this Cat 2 one. I don't want those other versions. That's what throws us off. Now if I go in to load it, it should be the correct module. So I've done that to myself where I've made all these changes and I didn't realize what was going on. I go back and I'm like, hey, I did change it. And then when I go to load the preview, it's loading the old module. So you don't do that when you're making a copy of your rendering. Like if you want to actually preview what it looks like, you don't want to do that. So delete the older one or put it in a different folder. Don't try to write over it or make 5 different versions of it, because it's still going to take the oldest one if it has the same data. I'm not sure why, but it's something that you don't want to get into, trust me. And sometimes I've made changes based off that assumption, and I didn't have to do anything. I created a bunch of work for myself, and it's just annoying. So just move the older version into a different folder, rename it, whatever you have to do. Don't leave it in your modules folder because it'll cause you grief. So it's kind of a word of caution is kind of what I'm getting at. So I want to see if the revisions that I made, if they rendered. If not, I need to re-render it, but I want to take out the old one first. So that could be another problem, is if you re-render it, it might not, if it writes over the other one, it might not take the new changes. So you got to be careful with that. So that is something that you want to avoid. So I'm going to go ahead and close that, go to library. I'm going to unload this temporarily just in case I don't trust it. So I go to load filter, I'm going to unload it. Okay, now I'm going to reload. So I'm going to search for Leyren, because that's the author. And you won't be able to tell the difference. You can have 3 versions, it's only going to show 1. So, okay, so there's that. I'm going to open that, open the reference manual. Okay, so there's all that. There's this. So I want to look at that assets navigation page, because that I'll be able to tell if it's been updated. I know I updated it, but by having the other modules loaded or in the directory. So there is the cemetery. There's that. So that looks right. Yep, abandoned places. There's a cemetery map. Here's the inline previews that I was telling you about. So these are all the preview images for all the content. Kind of ugly. I don't like the way this turned out, so I might do something different, but there's all the images in case you want to look at them. And if you double click on it, it'll pop up the page, and then there's the link. And then your navigation thing for the map tools and such. You can click on this art subscription link. It takes you to the Fantasy Grounds page. And then there's all the map packs with all the descriptions. There's the index, which is right. And then if you click on this preview image, it's going to give you all the links that will pull up all these descriptions. So that's pretty handy. So if you click on that, there's a description or a bigger view of it, and then it drills down into the actual description, and then it goes back to that. So that's cool. So there you go. So that is the module. I'm thinking about putting it up on the Fantasy Grounds Forge, but I want to make sure that it's a little bit more cleaned up, and then also I want to make sure that I have it available for all rule sets, not just D&D 5e. So that's all I have today. I'm going to call it a stream. Hopefully that helps you guys a little bit when it comes to creating your own content and watching out for some of the snafus that you can come across. So we discussed the project I'm working on. We discussed Project Author a little bit, and we discussed creating modules and some of the best practices. So it's kind of a little hodgepodge of everything. But I wanted to share the project with you.